Welcome to this week's or this fortnight's chart delineation practice. I know a lot of my US friends are having a bit of a break for Thanksgiving weekend, so I've decided to step in and do this for myself. I'm going to share some of those, Veronica, for sure, horse racing tips. But what I'm going to do now, let me just share my screen, and there's a number of things I'm going to go through. Today's not going to be a typical just an astrological interpretation. What I'm looking for is what I'm going to show you is how I would say go about picking some horse race winners straight out of a guide and look at what I do. So I'm just going to show you that process. But what we might also do is do a little bit of live stuff and try and pick a couple as we're here. Why I chose to do this today was I looked at what the aspects are happening at the moment. And you can see here, I'm just going to, first of all, I'll show you a couple of things. Can everyone see my screen all right? Can you just confirm that, Walter?
Yes, I can see it.
Not a
Mhm.
problem. Now, if I change to this, if I go, because I should be on just screen, if I go to here, can you see the betting thing where the horses are?
I see a calculated chart. I think I see the same one. The current chart review and the calculated chart.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop share for a minute and I'm going to go to share screen. Oh, yeah, screen. Can you, so if I'm on this, you can see that now.
I can see that. I see it
If
now.
I change it to,
Right.
yes, you can. I'm seeing what you're sharing. So you're seeing the website and now you're seeing the charts.
Now I see the chart. Right. I was seeing the actual betting
Sorry.
list website, but now I'm
Beautiful.
seeing the
That's what I
chart.
wanted to. I just
Mhm.
wanted to confirm that before I keep going. Otherwise, I can be talking away,
Mhm.
and no one will follow me because I'll be jumping between tabs and bits and pieces. Now, you should also be able to now see a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Now, I'm going to just explain a couple of things. So, what happens when I say, for example, go to this website and I'm looking at what horses are racing for the day? Now, I'm located in what we call South Australia. And so, therefore, something like Caulfield, this particular horse race, Rose Hill, Doomben, they're all on different time zones. So, what's showing here is my time zone of when the horse is going to race. But that's not necessarily the local time zone. So, I have to adjust the chart in accordance to it. Caulfield and Rose Hill are half an hour ahead of me. Literally, we have half hours in Australia. And Doomben here is in Brisbane, which is half an hour behind me. So that race there would go off at not 12:13, for example. It'll go off at 11:43. No, 11:43. This one, on the other hand, will go off at 12:35, and this one here at 20 past 12. So I've got to be consciously aware of where the time zones are for the race itself. That's number one I've got to do. What I'm looking at here is I looked at the charts of certain things on the course of the day, and you can see here that on the 29th of November, for you guys it's still the 28th, but for us it's the next day. And Brisbane, which is what we call the Doomben race in this case. So if I go back here, I'll show you where it is. Bear with me a second. So Doomben here, 12, I said, what was it, 12? What is it? I had it down as 12:18. Why have I got that? Maybe that's actually the wrong time. Is that right? Let's have a look. Bear with me. This is all part of literally what I would be doing. Doom in 12:18. No, it's not. Why has that got maybe what I need to do if I log in? No, that hasn't changed it. You can see how much money I've got in this little account. So what you have here, that's actually wrong. That's actually oh no, no, I haven't. There it is there. Sorry. 12:48 is 12:18. So this is the horse race or the horses running in the race of this particular chart. And I'm going to explain. So at the time this race kicks off, which is 12:18 Brisbane time, this is where the chart's going to be. Now you'll notice a number of things. When you're talking about horse racing or picking a winner of something, especially I'd say in a horse race, the way in which I find most commonly works is that the midheaven ruler or planets on the midheaven tend to be the strongest influence over the winning. Now, there's a number of different, what's the word for it? rules and stuff that I'll utilize. So I'll just take you through how I would normally look at this chart and how I would start to interpret what may be the influence, the planetary influence. That's what I'm looking for. What is the planetary influence that's more likely going to pick the winner? Now, generally speaking, I now have Mars sitting there at the top. Now, if you've got any questions, because there's only the two of you, unmute and just talk because it'll probably be easier than me trying to look and see the chat box because I've got the screen up. So what we have here is we have Mars sitting right on the midheaven. As you can see, it's 17 degrees, and the midheaven's at 1653. So it's literally a minute away, or 1 degree away, I should say. And the thing about when you're looking at horse racing, always anticipate that there's a possibility the race will start later. Never starts early, but it might start later. So therefore, if you're talking about the degree of the midheaven here, how long would it take for the midheaven to reach that sun, that the actual Mars position? It's literally 1 degree. Now, if you think about it, generally speaking, the Earth moves at about 1 degree every 4 minutes. So if you divide it out into a day, literally about 1 degree of the zodiac, and that's how we do that. Is literally it's got 360 degrees in the zodiac and 24 hours in a day, and you divide that down, and you'll work it out that it'll be about 1 degree every 4 minutes it moves. So if this race started 4 minutes late, it's going to be started with Mars directly on the midheaven. So this is going to be Mars's predominant, strongest position. It's also the ruler of the midheaven is Sagittarius. The ruler of the ascendant is Pisces. So both of those are co-ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter's in a strong position down here in Cancer. Now, what I look for, these are a couple of things just to go through. Any planet that is in aspect to the midheaven by exact degree is important. So here we have the two closest are the Moon and Mars. And if you have a look, they're very closely square each other, and the Moon is approaching Mars. So it's going to increase that square in strength. So this Moon relationship to Mars is going to have a very big impact. When I'm looking at this sort of thing, my experience has that the Moon itself isn't necessarily what's going to be the influence over the winner. Don't mind me keeping my mouth sort of moist. That the Moon will be an amplifier for the energy of the planets it touches. This is a really important thing. So the fact that it's coming up closest to the midheaven and to Mars means that it's giving energy to that Mars. So this is like an amplifier. So Mars is already in the predominant position at the top of the chart, but the Moon is also going to give it even further energy because the Moon is not by aspect really hitting any other planet. We could look at it as a semi-square and sesquiquadrate, which is the 45 and 135 degree angle. And so are we anywhere where 1 degree of a fixed sign? And the answer to that is we've got a semi-square going to Pluto. There's a 45 degree angle to Pluto. I also do things like I'll come up here to reports and I will check the midpoints. No, not the listings. I'm going to go to the axis. And I look at what are the midpoints to the midheaven? Is there anything hitting it? And the answer to that is not really, but the only direct aspect, as you can see, it is Mars, and it's very close. If I look at the midpoint, interestingly enough, I'm sure I'd find it, is of Pluto is the Moon and the midheaven, which is what we were just talking about, because if that's at a 45 degree angle, it's going to be hitting that. So we're going to have an influence from the Moon and Mars to Pluto. But Pluto itself is also forming an aspect to the midheaven, and it's nearly exact as well. However, this is going to be the rules for you guys to understand. The general gist, and this is not as I said, this is not being presented in a PowerPoint or anything. The planets that have most influence or tend to be the ones that work in picking a winner over others will surprise you. They are Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And the ones that tend to rely on other energies affecting them or helping them are the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Pluto. Now, the reason for that, in simple astronomical terms, what I've worked out, And this is going on years and years of experience. So we're talking a long time of watching this happen. When I said to you guys I picked 10 winners in a row, a lot of that was associated because it was a similar time of year to now, and Mars and the Sun were close together and they were transiting near the midheaven. So I had strong aspects where Mars sat out at the top and horses in the race were related to Mars, and it was easier for me to pick. When I had Venus conjunct the midheaven, thinking, oh, well, that's going to be fine, I got Venus there, it failed miserably. So, why is that? Well, it's to do with, I believe, the speed in which the planets rotate. So, if you're talking about a physical effect and a planet redirecting, I would say, gravitationally, it's spinning around. If the sun is producing neutrinos, which it does, and it sends those out like photon particles, which is light, bear with me. What's happened there? I thought I had a message. All right. Nope, that's disappeared. So if they're sending out the subatomic particles, the faster spinning planets, and I say that bodies in our solar system, tend to be the ones that have a strongest influence over the outcome of events. So Venus, even though it's bigger than Mars by size, it takes 243 days to turn around once. So it's got a very, very, very slow day cycle. The sun and moon take 30 days. Now, we turn around every 24 hours. Mars is around 24 hours, 32 minutes. My theory is with all of the energy that Mars creates on Earth, and we're talking about with division and how things work and Martian type energy, if Mars was a bigger planet, we probably wouldn't have a life form to be able to exist on this Earth. That's pretty much what I believe, because its energy would be too strong, or we would be a very different type of life form. So this is an interesting concept, but then you've got Jupiter, which takes 9 hours and 50 minutes to turn around. It's spinning like anything. Saturn takes 10 hours and 17 minutes from memory, and Uranus and Neptune are around that 16, 17 hours each. Pluto's a lot longer. I think it might be 58 days from memory. Mercury is slow as well. I can't remember what it is, but off the top of my head, but I just know I do have them, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So the faster moving planets are the ones that are more reliable. Now, looking at that, we can see that these planets, and I don't really mind if it's retrograde or not. What happens when you're talking about horse racing winners, what also influences is the power of the rulership. So disposition becomes another thing. So let me just explain. Normally, if this was not Mars on the midheaven, which is going to make it a little easier for us because we've got a big, strong planet in a very strong position on the top of the chart being amplified by a moon aspect. So that in itself means that the winner of this race, in simple terms, should be related to Mars as a planet by its name. That's how it works. Now, if we take into account this, that the ruler of the midheaven, which is also very strong, and therefore the ruler of Mars, is Jupiter. Jupiter is in Cancer, which is also ruled by the moon. And it's in mutual reception because the moon is also being ruled by Jupiter. If you want to go the next step, the moon's dispositor here is also Neptune. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
The moon's dispositor here is also Neptune. So Neptune's also going to have a very strong position, especially while it's in Pisces, because that's where it stops. That's its rulership. And while Neptune has been in Pisces, I've noticed there's been a lot of Neptunian influence over the winning of certain races, and I can explain that in a minute. But what we're going to look at here, seriously, is if I was to look at this chart, I look at the midpoints, which show me the only real midpoint is the moon, Mars to Pluto, so there may be a slight undertone of Pluto. But I really look at this and go, the winner of the race should be something Martian. There may be a moon influence if it's associated, but really the horse that is closest associated or only associated to the rulership under Mars, and I'll explain that in a minute, is going to win this race. That's pretty much what it should be. So I'm now going to go back to here. And what we do is we look at the different horses by name. And I'm going to show you an example. So what I did in my workshop one of the days is we went and we had a look at, this is going back to the 15th of November. As I said, this is only fairly recent that we did it, 2 weeks ago, literally. And what we do is we go through and we break down what the horse's name means. So Happy Prince. So if you're going to do this sort of thing, you probably need Rex's book, little Rex Bills with the rulership book, because this one will literally show you a lot of the stuff that happens and how it works, as in how to break it down. Sometimes it's the words, and sometimes it's the context of what the words are describing. So, for example, I remember here having a horse that won a race called Hear That Bell. And to hear that bell in itself, hearing being Mercury and possibly Saturn, a bell, which could be a musical instrument, or it can also be an alarm. So it can be Mars or it can be Venus, it can have a Neptunian. But if you say hear that bell, what does it mean? You're actually saying, you're stopping in the middle of something usually and saying, hear that bell? So it's only ever used when someone says the words hear that bell, it's usually saying, can you hear the warning? What's going on? It's interrupting. It is a warning. There's something that's making you stop and think and take notice. And what is that? That's Mars. Mars makes those things happen. So in this instance, it's sort of the meaning of the horse name outweighs the breakdown of the horse name. So it would normally be Mars with these other planetary influences underneath, but it's purely a Mars horse. So let me just give you an example of a few here because I've got them already done. Happy Prince. So happiness is Venus and Jupiter, and a prince is the sun. Surviving on a prayer. So what I've done is I literally go to Google or a good like ChatGPT or something and say, what does surviving on a prayer mean? And it throws back a meaning like this. Living on a prayer means to survive by relying on hope and love. Often during difficult circumstances, surviving takes this to a more difficult level. So in other words, instead of living on a prayer, you're surviving on a prayer. So you're in a survival state. Survival state is definitely Saturn, and a prayer is definitely Jupiter. So we're talking about a Saturn Jupiter horse. This one here is called Project Ace. So when you no one knew this, but Project Ace actually it's means is HIV has a stigma and is a priority issue that's negatively affects people living with HIV or vulnerable to HIV, especially in terms of accessing HIV and mental health care. Project ACE is actually a project to help people in this area. It's called the Acceptance and Commitment to Empowerment intervention program that consists of evidence-based training in reducing stigma at the individual and collective levels. It's a training program. So if I didn't Google that, I would just not know that Project ACE meant that. And literally, there's a thing called Project ACE. So if we look at it, we look at HIV being an antibody or something that's foreign to the body. So which is Uranus. We're talking about a project, which is Mercury. So you're communicating, it's online. And Neptune and the moon, which is also Mercury being training and a training program. And Neptune and the moon, because it's also associated to the public in general. And it's usually some form of, as it says, the acceptance. And acceptance is all about Neptune. It'll also have a little bit of Chiron in there as well. So you're talking about ace, for example, as a normal thing. To ace somebody is to beat them. If you're talking about tennis, on its own, I would have broken that down to project, which is a project could be mercurial, so you're laying out plans. Project may also have a Plutonian undertone because you're planning strategically, depending on what it is. And ace would be Mars. But in this case, because it means something completely different, it's got a completely different rulership. This is the sort of thing we do. And if you don't do it this way, you will, if you're trying to pick on this type of scenario, picking horse races, you're going to fail on it because you're going to go, oh, I should have seen that. My biggest failures through any of this has been when I've not interpreted the name correctly, if I've gone and broken it down. Here's another one. Onyx being a stone, which is ruled by Saturn, and an outlaw, I should say, outlaw. And an outlaw is Uranus and Pluto, according to good old Rex. A quarry is definitely Saturn, because you've dug out a hole in the ground, stone, but it's also Pluto, because it's a form of mining. Tassie, which means Tasmania. So if you're Australian, that's a slang for Tasmania, which is one of our states, the little island at the bottom of Australia that sits off the bottom. So anything slang is Mercury, Pluto, and Tassie being an island by itself, which is Saturn and Neptune because it's surrounded by water. Saturn being the land, surrounded by water, that's what islands are. Props represents, so this is an interesting one. So props have several meanings, including a physical objects used to support something or someone, so propping you up. An item used by actors on a screen, or a stage or a screen, so you've got your props that are there, and an informal slang in respect to recognition. It's also a shortened version of a propeller or a propellant. So in specific contexts, it can be used in the verb meaning to support or prop up. So with all of that, there's a whole combination of planetary meanings here, or energy. So Mercury, Moon, Uranus, and Saturn. Valley of the Kings was literally the valley where the kings were buried, so the royal burial ground for many of the ancient Egyptians, pharaohs, and powerful, as it says there, nobles during the kingdom period. So if that's the case, it's a burial ground. It's Pluto, it's Saturn. We're talking about kings, which is the sun, and also old kings, which is Sun and Saturn. So that's definitely Sun, Saturn, and Pluto. Now, I could take you to this particular. Actually, what I will do is I'll go and find it. What do we got here? Because I have it sitting back here. I'm going to go all the way back. Where are we? There we are. Was it race one? Here's the chart of that race. And I'm going to quickly explain this one because we've got a couple of things happening. We've got the midheaven at 1 degree of Sagittarius. We have Mercury conjunct that with the midheaven heading towards the Mercury. So it's moving forward. We also have Uranus in opposing that midheaven. And at the same time it's in opposition to Mercury. So what happens is, remember I told you that Mercury, the Sun, Moon, and Venus, and Pluto are not really strong on their own, but when they get aspected by planets or they're dragged into, they become stronger. They work more effectively. We also have something else happening interesting here, and that is the Moon is at the exact same degree as Mercury. It's not at the same degree as anything else, but it's at the exact same degree as Mercury. It's slightly moving away from Mercury, but it's definitely aspecting by a sextile aspect. So it's going to give energy to that Mercury. So this Mercury is not behaving like a typical Mercury on the midheaven without any strength or energy. It's being amplified by the Moon. We've also therefore got it in an easy opposition. So that opposition here is the Uranus is trining the Moon and also trining the Mercury. So we've got a strong Uranus, Mercury, Moon position. We also have Sagittarius being the ruler of the midheaven, which is, again, like we said, is ruled by the Moon. The Moon here is ruled by Venus. Venus is in Scorpio, which is ruled by either Pluto or Mars. So if we went back to Mars, it goes back to Jupiter. If we go down to Pluto, it goes across, we could say, to Uranus, which goes back to Venus. Or it can go to, if you go to traditional, it'll go to Saturn, and Saturn will go to Jupiter again, or Saturn will go to Neptune. So here we have, if we go through that disposition, it's ending here in Neptune. Neptune and the Moon are also in opposition. So we've got this big mystic rectangle forming across the chart. We have Neptune in very close sextile aspect to Uranus, and the Moon in very strong sextile aspect to Mercury. So in this particular race, I looked at this and went, you know what? This is going to be a mercurial related winner that's going to have a strong Uranus impact. And there's going to be an aspect to do with Neptune and the Moon. If I can find a horse that has all of those in it, that's going to be my winner. So what happened in this particular race? The only one that fit that description was this. Look, it literally fits it in. Uranus, Mercury, Neptune, and Moon. Did it win the race? Of course it did. Number one, it won. So in this case, that's how I would break it down. Interestingly enough, the next one that came second was Quarry, which was Saturn. If you think about it, you go, where did that come from? So that's the Saturn and also Pluto. Remember, Pluto was in a strong position. If I go back to here, with all of that mystic rectangle, have a look at the degree. It's hitting Pluto here as well. Pluto in Aquarius. So that wasn't strong enough to win because Pluto was also forming this easy opposition to the midheaven. And the kite formation there was going all the way to the midheaven and Mercury. So really it was going to be a Mercury winner, which it was. However, we also had a situation, like I said here, where the horse number 2 was associated to that. And then all of a sudden we have Happy Prince coming in third, which realistically, to me, that's a bit of a ring-in. I don't know why, but this is what tends to happen. Sometimes you just get energies that are there. That's probably the Jupiterian energy. It's probably the disposition also to Venus, like we talked about, and the relationship between those two, and it came in third. The sun didn't have an influence. It's really hard to break that down and say which Saturnian horse would win. That's why I would keep away from it. And in this case, the only one that really fit the picture of all those planets that were strongest was Project Ace. In this instance, I think it also happened to be the favourite. So what we're going to do is I'm now going to take you to back down to the bottom. Was this the one? Yep. And we're going to have a look because technically speaking, this race doesn't run too long from now. So in this one, I personally look at this and go, I would break this down to being a very strong Mars horse race. And if that's the case, let's see if we can pick which one's going to win. Now, I haven't got a spreadsheet for this, so we're going to do it literally as we go through. And please feel free to make comment if you want to and say, hey, look, I'm seeing this or I'm seeing that. But this is how I would break it down. I'm looking for a horse that is only ruled by Mars. If I can find one of those in the race, that's going to be my winner. If it's got Mars in it, it may or may not, but the real winner is going to be Mars only. So rattle and hum, if you think about it, when you think about rattle and hum, does anyone want to tell me what you think about? Anyone want to make a comment? I know what I think of. I think of a U2 song or an album. So rattle and hum being the album by U2. So in this case, we have a situation with Rattle and Hum being a musical album. That's not so much Mars. Uncommon valor. So that's a form of bravery, yes. But if you break it down, something that's uncommon, which is odd or not common, maybe Uranus. So valor is definitely Mars, but uncommon valor might be a combination of Uranus and Mars. Depends how you look at it, but I would look at that as being really, it's Uranus and Mars, not just Mars. Steel blaze. Now, what is the ruler of steel? I wonder if there's something in... does anyone want to make a comment before I have to look up good old Rex Bills and see if he puts it in here? I would say steel is not like iron. Iron would be Mars, but steel is something a little bit different because it's a derivative of iron. We're just having a look. Literally, this is what I end up doing. And it may not even be in here. Steel industry. Well, there we go. Steel is Mars, but also with Pluto and Saturn because it's mining and it's the industry, but it's definitely Mars. So steel blaze and a blaze being fire. This one really has a strong potential, steel blaze. If you look at steel itself as just being Mars. But once again, we don't want to fit square pegs into round holes here. A social outcast. So a social outcast would probably be a bit of a misfit. This is probably somebody who's Uranian and again, not necessarily Mars related. So at the moment, the only real Mars horse we've got is good old steel blaze here. Mannerheim. Mannerheim is a surname. I've looked that up before. It's more somebody's surname. Surnames I tend to put under Saturn. This is another one who is actually the favourite. Look here. Think hard and fast. Now this is an interesting one because it's a statement. It's a bit like hear that bell. Someone says think hard and fast. You're being put on the spot. You're being told, hold on, you better think hard and fast here. And to think hard and fast means to react quickly, to be able to move fast or give an answer quickly. So there's a fine line here because that action is extremely Mars and it could just be Mars on its own. The word itself has think hard. So think and hard is Mercury and Saturn and fast is Mars. So if we broke it down into the actual wording, it wouldn't just be Mars, it'd be Mercury and Saturn and Mars. It's a bit like steel blaze, technically speaking. So we have a situation here where I'm uncertain as to how that would play out. But generally speaking, if you thought about it just as what the name is, think hard and fast, it's usually a statement to tell someone you better be quick about it. So that's a bit like hear that bell. So that could just be Mars on its own, which means that the favourite's probably a pretty good favourite. Big ticket boy. So big as Jupiter, a ticket, so a pass to something. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's probably mercurial because it's a physical ticket. and a buoy being Mars. This is Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, or thereabouts. Around the buoy being a flotation device, will be have to do with Neptune, and floating would probably have something to do with the Moon, maybe Saturn, and going around it would be the action. So once again, this is not fully Mars. Amani's girl, definitely not Mars, because a girl is Venusian. Grey Northern, so we might have to look at that and say, what does Grey Northern mean? So I would literally copy that. This is an example. And you can see here, Grey Northern. What does it mean to be? So here, it's not really giving me a greys and neutral color, but it just doesn't give me anything in particular. So grey and northern being a direction, they're not Mars related as such. And then you've got another horse called Throttle Response. So throttle response, you might have seen it a minute ago. I'd put it in here to see what the meaning was. Now, a throttle response is in a vehicle, which is Mars, because Mars is to do with cars and vehicles. It's the throttle response is how quickly the engine accelerates after the driver presses the gas pedal. So this, to me, is Mars. There's no question about where this is going. A throttle response is is literally how fast am I going to go? How am I going to pick up speed? So this is where it becomes a difficult one. Here, I would then look at it and say, let's have a look at the form of the horse, have a look at the comment. This one says, overdue another win, having placed it past 3 attempts, rises in grade but is lightly raced and may measure up. You can see that this horse has run that distance once before and won. On soft, he's never won. He's still got a fairly good career, and the last races he's come second on a good track. Here we have a soft track, and I don't know what I mean by growing up in grade. I don't quite understand the grade scenario things, but this one is probably the strongest Mars horse. Think Hard and Fast would be another Mars horse. Now, if you have a look here, he's got a pretty good average too. He's never run this distance though. He's run once on a soft and won. And in recent times at 1800 metres, his last one, he won. He came second at 1600. Now, this is a longer race. So I'd have to look at it and go, well, he's in form. He's got all these things going for him. And the other one was Steel Blaze. Displayed discouraging second up improvement, then also fell at Randwick, given every chance this route latest. So look, he's run this distance 8 times and never won. He's been on a soft course 10 times and only won once. He has run this course and lost last time only by 2.2 lengths, as it says, but he was running in a higher grade. BM 90 means benchmark 90 versus benchmark 70. So this is a horse that's been running in a much stronger field, you could say. That's how I see that. Open, which is also strong again. He came last in that one. So when I'm looking at all of these things, and I'm literally taking you through, and I know it's a little outside of the astrology side, but this is literally when I'm looking at it from an astrological point of view, and I'm wanting to pick a winner, seriously, I've got to go through and analyze it. So the reality here is, what would I pick? And the answer to it is, be prepared to get it wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there's too many Mars-based horses. In other words, one of them is probably going to win. There's no question about it. My guess would be this one, Throttle Response. And I say that because he's the only one that's Mars. Remember, Think Hard and Fast could have a Mercury-Saturn component to it, although the actual saying, words, are Mars only. And Steel Blaze could also have a strong chance as well, but steel could also be part of that manufacturing Saturn-Pluto some scenario as well. But it's also strong. What I could do is this. I could take a chance and put them all in a trifecta. 1, 2, 3. So I might even do it. Why don't I just do that now? So I just sit here and I'll take, and then you got Uncommon Valor. So there's too much here, but I don't mind taking a chance. I'll just give it a go. I'm going to pick that one, and the favourite. And I'm just going to put a little $6 bet on it, because that will give me, so you're literally watching me do this live. Have I added to the bet slip? Oh, it's in there. Come on, where are we? No, that one's gone a long time ago that I didn't even do. I can bin that. There we go. And there's my potential winnings. It's telling me that. So I'll just give it a go, see what happens. Now, would I normally go with a trifecta like that? Probably not. Hang on, let me get back out of here. I'm trying to work out where I'm going. I would probably come down here and bet on this one. And I might even do that on the basis of something. And I can go, let's go, I've got a bet return option. So what I might do is I might put $20 on that to win. It has to win though. But if it gets second or third, they give me my money back. So that's a safe bet to me. I'm going to give it a go, see what happens. The reason I picked that one is because to me that's the only one that's Mars, and it doesn't have anything in there that represents another planetary energy. So technically, that should win. Technically, we'll wait and see. I'll keep you posted. Now, let me go to, so that's that particular race. Let's go back and find another one. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking for charts of the races when Mars is going to be close to the midheaven. Now, based on obviously the what do you call it? The latitude of these particular courses themselves depends, and the time zones depends on when that Mars will actually be transiting across the midheaven, across the ecliptic. So I literally have to do the charts for each of these races. What I have done is if I go to Caulfield, here's one here. Was that one? That one. I'll show you something. So if I look at, can everyone see that rate, that chart just there? I'll pop it up. Here we have Mars being approached by the midheaven and the moon at 17, which is literally approaching it very closely. To me, this is too far away from the midheaven. That's 6 degrees. So I wouldn't go with that race. I would look at the next one and go, well, this is just past the midheaven. See, it's 19, but it's only just over 1 degree. And the moon's even closer to Mars. I would still look at this race because even if it starts a minute or two late, it's still going to be within aspect. And also that moon is very strongly aspecting that Mars. So we're going to have a look at Caulfield for 2 p.m. So that in my time zone will be 1:30. So if I look at this one, go back, and you can usually count on the fact that the midpoints and the other rulerships of the charts will be the same because we're talking about the same time of day. Even though the locations are different, you're lining the chart up to look exactly the same. So you're going to find that midpoints and other things, you can always check them. But generally speaking, we've got a 17, 17. We don't have anything else at 17 degrees. That's moved slightly further away from that Pluto. And remember I said Pluto was also influencing here, which is interesting. I've gone and picked throttle response in the last one and underestimated the Pluto-Saturn influence here, which means that it could be steel blaze. We'll see how we go. Normally, when you've got more than one horse in a race that represent the planetary energy, you're then all of a sudden, which is what I've just done now, you're second guessing. You're not actually picking a winner. When you have one horse in a race that's related to the one planet, and the one planet's the strongest and it's the strongest, you pick that horse, it'll always win. It's like what we had with Project Ace. What was the chance of Project Ace, that planet fitting every planetary energy that was being formed across the chart and being really strong? And when we put them all together and we broke down the name, we went, geez, this fits them all. Mercury, Uranus, Moon, Neptune, everything was there. And I went, oh, it's going to win. And it did. That's how you get the winners. So you're trying to focus on the right ones. But we're going to go to 1:30 in this one. Now, Caulfield, 1:30. I'm looking for 1:30 their time because it's 2 o'clock. Remember, it's 2 o'clock local time. So this is a 2 o'clock chart. But for me, in my local time zone, that's 1:30. So I'm going to go back to here. And this is the race we're looking at. Now, we have interesting names. Chirgui. What the hell does that mean? Mark Zahra is he's a very good jockey. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to put in, what does it mean? And it comes back Easterner, or coming from the east, and most commonly refers to a hot, dry, easterly or southeasterly wind, which blows from the Sahara Desert. Interesting. So we get an indication of what it means. So if that's the case, it's the wind. Wind is Uranus. So that's not necessarily a Mars horse. So I can discount this one. Regeneration. Well, if Pluto was on the midheaven, I know what I'd be looking at. But in this case, possibly not. Chicago Blues. I don't. Now, is the Chicago Blues, is that a sporting team at all? Or is it just, does anyone know? I'm just going to check. No, it's a blues music. That's what I sort of thought it was. So being music, it's also not Mars. So I can discount that one. Recuperato. That sounds to me like recuperation of some kind, which I don't think would be Mars either. But I'm going to just check. Recovered. So to be recovered, recovery. Let's have a quick look with what Rex says. To recover or to be recovered. I don't know if he will have this as a word, but we're going to try it quickly. Recover. Nope, it's not in there. So what would you call for recovery? To get well, to become better? I'd say it's more Jupiterian. It's like to return to health. All right, let's go to NAFA. And we're going to have a quick look here. NAFA. Interesting. NAFA is a name for a girl that means elevated, high, or towering. It can also describe a person who is exalted, known for their kindness and generosity, those advice sought by many. So in this instance, we're talking about a name, a girl's name, and it's to do with generosity. So it's a bit of a Venus with Jupiter influence. So that also isn't necessarily. Cafeteria is literally a cafeteria. I know that for a fact. So that's really a moon. So a place where people go for food, a public place, something that serves food and that type of thing on a day-to-day basis. So I'd say that's more the moon. High Val. Now, this is interesting. So if I would normally grab this as well and put it in, because when I see high val, is that an abbreviation for a high value? Or is it someone saying a high val to somebody who is Val? Val is a simple greeting with high meaning hello and Val likely being the name, possibly a nickname. Longer names, Valerie or Valentine, which is exactly what I would have thought. So it's really a greeting, which is mercurial. Romantic miss, I sort of don't think that's Mars, but look at this one, and it's the favourite. Motorsports. Now that's not Mars, I don't know what is. Angel in Black. So this one here, I'll guarantee you that one's going to win. If it doesn't, I don't know what's going on. Because if we look at all of these horses, there is no Mars horse except one. It's also the favourite. Interestingly enough, it's only run twice and it's come second, and it's run the distance once and won. On soft, it came second. It's going pretty well. And at $4.60, I think I'm going to back it. So I'm going to do the same. This time, I'll do the bet return, but I might put $30 on it because I reckon it's going to win. So there you are. There's your best tip for the day. I think this one's stronger than the other one because there's no other Mars horse in the race. All right, so I'm going to see how we go. Look, if I fail, this is live for everyone to see. So you can all come back and say to me, you didn't do it right. But this is how I would how I break it down. And the fact that there is no Mars horse in this race that I can see, unless Recuperato might have something to do with Mars that I'm not looking at in my interpretation. I don't think any of the others are associated to Mars, but motorsports is definitely a Mars. Not only because it's motor, it's also sports. Even if you break the word down, it's Mars. It's competition. So that's a really good one as an example. So this is what I'm doing now, just so you're all aware, is I'm looking at the day of racing and going, well, when's the best time? You know, what races should I be looking at? And I'm looking at this because that's a nice position of it. Mars is strong. The moon is strong. It's definitely got a lot to do with what's going on here. So it's the strongest influence. Let me have a look at any others I might have. Now, is everyone following this? Walter, Veronica? I'm assuming that's a yes, but I can't hear either of you. I'm just going to keep going then. Oh,
Yes.
what do we got?
Yes, I follow you.
You following me? Does it all make sense?
Some of it.
What doesn't make sense? Because I want to make sure that you've got an indication of understanding what's going on. Is it a little bit advanced or is it purely I'm jumping around the place?
No, well, the thing is that how simple it is going to be reduced down to because of the name and
Yes.
associating the name.
Now, let me explain to you why that's the case, because that's something I think you need to understand why I think this is where it all started for me. Where planets on the midheaven had the influence over the outcome of the event. So therefore, what goes down in history as the outcome or the peak, which is the midheaven, is the winner. What goes down in history as the winner of that particular race will be associated by name to the planetary energy because that's how it's known. The horse might be called Motorsports, but its stable name might be Josephine for all we know.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, that's not how it's known when you look at history and you look at the outcome of the event, who won the event and why the event was won. So therefore, that's the association to the name. It's how it's known.
Mhm.
It's the outcome. So it's not necessarily even the horse itself. It's about the fact that what is going to win this event, what's going to be the one that rises above the others and is known as the winner, which will be the midheaven position. And
Mhm.
that's why all of these success points or winning points, especially in races like this, go back to an association or a relationship to the midheaven. Let me show you both something. I'll just go back to one other here, and I'm going to go back to the Melbourne Cup. I'll use this as an example. Where are we? Breeders' Cup, Melbourne Cup. So I had these in Melbourne Cup 2022. This is going back a little while. But this is why I've done what I've looked at. The Melbourne Cup winner of this race, let me see if I can open up I'm going to go and find it. 2025, 2024, 2022. All right. So have a look at this chart. We don't have a midheaven place based planet at all. So trying to pick the winner of Australia's biggest horse race with 24 horses in it becomes quite complex. And this is like trying to pick Breeders' Cup and things like that. But the Breeders' Cup, thank God, doesn't have 24 horses in the race, not like the Melbourne Cup. So in this instance, what I'm looking for is I'm trying to find what's going to be the biggest influence and why is the midheaven the strongest point. Okay,
Jupiter, wouldn't it?
it's Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. But there's a catch here, Walter. Remember the moon gives strength to anything it's touching. It's like an amplifier. Have a look at the moon's aspect. Again, it is to the midheaven. Look, it's nearly exact,
Wow.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But what planet is it touching? Only one, the sun. It's coming closer towards the sun. It's coming into a square. This is what that moon and Mars is doing. That's why I'm saying that Mars is really powerful today for these races because the moon is giving strength to that. Now, on its own, that means nothing, right? But it's in aspect to the midheaven. The midheaven's coming closer to the sun during the race. So this, even though it's only a semi-sextile, it's all about the degrees. It's all about the angles it forms and therefore where the energy release points are, where they bounce off each other, you could say. So this moon starts moving into a sextile. This is a semi-sextile, and they're squaring each other. So I looked at this and I went, okay, I've got a Sagittarius midheaven. Where's Jupiter? It's sitting down here in what do you call it? In Pisces, conjunct Neptune. So in this particular one, I thought, well, that's fairly strong. So Jupiter is in Pisces, it's in rulership. So Jupiter's very strong. It's also conjunct Neptune, which is also very strong because that's in rulership. But they're not making an aspect to the midheaven. They're just not touching it. We also have down here the part of fortune is in exact aspect by degree to the sun and also opposing the midheaven. So that will be midheaven and the part of fortune will be moving around opposite each other. So this is a strong point. And I looked at it and went, Jupiter is definitely the strongest, but this moon is hitting the sun. So I said, is there going to be a Sun Jupiter horse? Because that sun cannot be discounted. In this Melbourne Cup, and here's all the horses, I looked and I went, there's Gold Trip. So gold being the sun and Jupiter being a journey, a trip. I said with Mercury, but Mercury's normally travel within a short span. It's usually local travel, not a trip, which is Jupiter. So I put it in there when I was putting my calculations together, but I went, there's a sun, Jupiter. And I put them all, here's all the descriptions. So I look for anything with the sun in it. Numerian, which was an old Roman emperor. I'm just trying to move this somewhere I can see what's going on. So the old Roman emperor. And if I scroll down, without a fight, funnily enough, won the Melbourne Cup in 2023, the year after, and I picked that one as well because what was what was really strong in the chart was the Saturn Neptune aspect. So I knew it was going to be a Saturn Neptune winner. And without a fight, you can't get more Neptune and Saturn but to surrender. So that was 2023. That was the year after, but he didn't win this year. I've looked down here for Sun. All of these horses, none of them had the Sun. So I went, okay, I've got two horses with the Sun. One is Sun Saturn, one is Sun Jupiter. What's the strongest planet? Jupiter. Well, it's got to be Gold Trip. And guess what? It won and paid $21 for the win. So that was a nice win for me. So this is where when you don't have planets on the midheaven's strength determines the winner. This is really important if you're going to do this sort of thing or try it. So that's why I picked today a couple of races with the moon doing the same thing to Mars, but right on the midheaven. So it's even stronger. So this is the sort of thing where you can see how it plays out. All right. We'll go back down to the bottom. And did I pick any other races? And there's this one. All right. So, well, let's have a look. That's at 12:35. That might be a bit late later on now. Oh, actually, might have already done. So this is 12:35 Rose Hill time. Yeah, one may have already run. All right. Let's have a look. Here we have the sun on the midheaven. The moon's down here in Pisces, is on the midheaven or Sagittarius, and we've got Jupiter here in Cancer, which is aspect of the moon. The moon's making a square to Mars, as we can see, and Mars is still in the 10th house. It's quite strong. I would have a look at the axis, and the midheaven's midpoint is Mercury and Mars. So the midheaven is the midpoint between Mars and Mercury. So that's a strong one. So we've got a Mercury-Mars component influencing the midheaven quite strongly because they're both elevated in the chart. And what else am I looking at? We would have, so that's Mercury, Mars, and where's the sun? The sun doesn't have anything. It's got Mars and Venus. So I look for the direct one, D for direct. So Mars and Venus is the sun. So these are also strong. So we've got a sun midheaven. Remember I said the sun on its own is not necessarily strong enough to pick a winner? But what we're going to do, hopefully, this race has already run. This is 12:35, which will be the 12:05 my time. So let's have a look. Let's go to Rose Hill and move this out of the way. Horse racing, Rose Hill. It's already run. Okay, ran at 12:05. Look what won. Mars, Fireball. Wish I'd checked that one earlier.
Wow.
Now, did I not say that Mars is going to be the strongest? Here's all the field. Dynamic Diva, no. Nothing else in that. I should have got onto that one. Paid more money, $8. I was a bit late. But here's an example where Mars isn't even exactly on the midheaven. And if you think about what is a fireball, the sun. Sun is a fireball. So it is actually the sun working, but it's the Mars related to it. A ball is something you play games with, remember? So Mercury and Mars as the midpoint being the midheaven and the sun. You look at this and go, if only I just looked at that one earlier on today, I would have put money on that one for sure. Fireball definitely going to win, and it did. Okay, there we are live watching what's just happened, and I absolutely stuffed up, missed that race because I should have got that one. All right, let's see if we can get another one though. Let's see what other. Let's have a look at other that are going on. Okay, go back to here. See if we can pick one. This is Brisbane. Let's have a look who won this. Silver Wedding, which is interesting. That was the favourite. That won't have had Mars there, that's for sure. So Caulfield, Eternal Warrior. Look at that. That's just one now. Let's have a look. Eternal, which is, what's Eternal? The Sun and Mars. So, yeah, look at that. That's a good one. And it's never run before. Geez, we wish we got onto that one. There you go. None of these represent Mars, as I can see, but that's definitely Sun Mars. And if we did the chart for it, that's 12:20. It ran off in Caulfield. So that would be this one. Caulfield. Whoops. Let's do the chart for it. Let's adjust it. Rectify to 12:20 p.m. Apply. Interesting. Look, we have Venus on the midheaven. Remember I said Venus means nothing usually, but the Mars is the ruler of it because it's Scorpio. That's in Sag, Jupiter to the moon, which is Jupiter. So moon, Jupiter, and you've got the sun and Mars. So really looking at this is where you can get quite fooled by things. It's that sun and Mars both in Sagittarius at the moment. Why is that important or powerful? Because the moon is squaring that Mars right now. And Mars is in an elevated position, and Mars is a very reliable winner of things. It tends to work very well. That's why I didn't look at that race because Venus was already there. But looking back at it, you can go, wow, okay. It's a wonderful thing when you're doing races because you can always say, oh, I would have picked that, but sometimes you wouldn't have. But there's an example. Now let's have a quick look here. One here. Which one's this? Pleasure Artist, Claim the Crown, Prince of Sorts, Perfect Justice, Phillipsburg, Diamond Show. Now this one possibly could win because that's Mars and Sun. Let's have a look. Why don't we just jump in and have a watch?
GM's improves on the inside of
Prince. Let's see if Diamond Show, Sun Mars, has enough to win. Does anyone mind just watching for a second? Just see what happens. We've got what have we got, about a minute to go?
Not at all.
Can't bet on it now anyway, but if I was, and that's just a quick assessment, okay? This is me being very quick. Impact, I think that's too sweet, literally. Artist. Else Claim the Crown. That'd be successful. So Claim the Crown might also be, because it's a leader at the moment, it might also be quite Mars related, but not 100% because the crown is not necessarily the right one. Let's just see if, we go, Claim the Crown is still kicking along. I don't know if Diamond Show's got it in her. Wherever Diamond Show is, it's in orange. So it must be, it's right back there. No, so which one's going to win? 11. Gemes. What does Gemes mean? There we go. We don't know what Gemes means. We didn't bother to check. So this is where it's really important to have a look. Gemes. Game or gems. Not sure. An interesting one. But anyway, look, Strawberry Impact, we said, is a bit sweet. It did all right. I'm in second. So here's an example where I probably wouldn't have bet because that's not enough. Diamond and Show can be entertainment. So it can be Sun, but it can also be Venus. And was it going to be strong enough where it was? Probably not. This is why you would stick to just a Mars horse in a Mars race in this instance. All right, let's have a look. This is Morfettville. This is more local to me on my time frame, 1:08 p.m. Let's do a quick calculation of this one and see what the chart is. So I'm going to open up this. I'm going to go to, so where I have DT, I have daylight time. This is where I put all my charts. Morfettville. And then I'm going to rectify it to today. What did we say the time was? 1:08 p.m. Right, so we're going to go 29 November 2025. And we're going to go 1:08 p.m. Apply. What am I doing? What happened there? It's killed all my aspects, huh? Not what I wanted to do. What's going on there? Rectify. I don't know what that did. Did anyone know what Solidify just did? It did a little bit of a strange scenario. November 2025. Okay, there we go. Well, here's one with the sun on the midheaven. So this is a bit early. The next race after that is at what time? 1:08 and 1:44. So let's just do the 1:44. 1:44. Here we have an exact hit. Beautiful. So we're going to look. And here, look, that moon is even stronger to the Mars on the midheaven. It's nearly exact. So here's one where we go, please, God, have a horse in the race which just is Mars. Let's have a look. And we can try. Alpine Flyer, that's not just Mars. A Dancing Storm, no. Arizona Activist, no, that's definitely, and that's the favourite. Pearl Adios and Zabella. There's only 5 horses in this race and not one of them is Mars, so I would be steering away from it. Unfortunately, got this wonderful aspect in the sky, which would help us pick one like Fireball, but no, big no to this one. So this is sort of the process in which you would go through or go around. So in essence, let me just sort of recap because at the
It
end of the
makes
day,
sense
I think
because you're looking for your patterns. If your pattern is not there, stay on the sideline. I
that's
see.
exactly right.
Mhm.
You get rid of it. If out, throw it out. That's my old saying. So, if it's there, I can look at another one later today. Now, Ascot here, I'm going to go. That's o'clock my time. They're 2.5 hours behind me. So that's going to be 12:34 p.m. in Ascot. So I'm just going to go there and I'll do that one. I'm going to open up, that's Perth. So I can go down here to Perth, Ascot. And they're not on daylight saving, so they don't need it. And I said 12:34 p.m. So I'm going to rectify that to 29 November 2025. I did say 12:34, didn't I? Okay. And there we have another Mars component. Now, here's a little bit different because this is later in the day. So the moon has passed that Mars, but it's still only within, what is it? 20 minutes. It's still pretty closely connected to that Mars position. The midheaven is 14 degrees, so it is a little bit further away. I like to work with the midheaven approaching the planet because, as I said, if the race is delayed, it's going to come closer. During the course of the race, it's going to come closer. So that's still working quite strongly. So what we'll have a quick look at, and this is probably going to be one of the last ones we do because I'm conscious of time for everybody. We said one. Okay. Red sun sensation. Interesting. Sensation being Venus sensuality. So that's more of a Venus, Sun, Mars. Lavalier. Now, what is a lavalier? Does anyone know? Or do I have to go and do another check? I'll move you over here, everybody. What is lavalier? Two things. It's a type of ornamental pendant, necklace, or a small microphone that clips onto clothing. I didn't know that. So it's basically jewelry. It's Venus, and if it's microphone, then it's Mercury. So it's definitely not Mars. Profit and power. Well, that's a play on words. So that's probably more a Jupiter Pluto or Jupiter and Mars, Jupiter Sun. Ginger green. Well, that's definitely not Mars. Funkel. A quick look. What's that mean? It is means fennel. There we go. A field of fennel. So fennel as a plant. Let's just have a look. Just make sure fennel isn't Mars related. I don't think it is, but fennel, the Mercury. Okay, so it's mid Leo, according to Rex Bills. So that's definitely not the right one. Royal tornado. So anything royal is going to be Jupiter or Sun. So it's not necessarily forever boy. Here's an interesting one. Um, and look at that. It's the favorite. Forever boy. So forever being eternal is really the infinitesimal is actually Pluto, believe it or not. So, and I did the hard way with the Breeders' Cup that we had, or the Breeders' Cup we just had. The winner of the Breeders' Cup was a horse called Forever Young, and missed by me because I didn't realise that Forever actually was Pluto. It's the infinitesimal. That's what it represents. And Pluto in the strongest position or getting all the energy for that particular race. So I went with more sort of the Sun, and it was the Pluto that actually came through and it won the race. So this is Pluto Mars in essence. So we have to probably look at this chart again and see whether that Pluto is forming a midpoint to the midheaven. So let's have a look at the midheaven, Moon, Mars. Nothing's in exact. Let's have a look at Mars itself. Hang on, probably the trees. Let's go here. This is what I'm looking for. Midheaven? Nope. Mars. Where's Mars? Moon. And Pluto, Mars ascendant, Moon midheaven. Well, that's pretty strong. So Moon midheaven is to Pluto. It's got an influence, but is it going to be strong enough? It is the favourite in the race, which also gives it a bit of oomph. And it's definitely Mars. Hobart West, because it's a direction, that's definitely not Mars. Blazing Emerald, and an emerald was his Venus. So that's Venus Mars. Emerald Trader. Zachariah Bow. This is interesting. A beau could be a boyfriend, can't it? Is that right? Or your partner. So that probably is more to do with Venus, a person's boyfriend or male admirer. Arguable. because Zachariah is Mars and Bo is Mars. It's just dropped. Did you see that? From $151 for a win down to 126. So for some reason, people are betting on it. Been well beaten at all three this time in and prepared to watch again. So looking at its career, look at this horse. It's run 101 races. It's only won 7 out of all of that. And even here, so it's a little bit sort of all over shop. Doesn't seem to be performing very well, and that's why it's got no prize money. But don't let that fool you sometimes. My question is the bow strong enough as a Mars thing? Because it's a partner, it's your partner, and partners can be Venus. So I would probably err on the side of caution and go no. Looking at the rest of this, if I was going to back anything, unfortunately, I'd have to back the favourite. And at $3, I probably would give it a miss. I go, it's not going to give me enough for the chance that it might come second. If I had to bet that away, all of a sudden I'd be putting, think about it this way. If I put $100 on it, let's just go down to $2.80. If I put $100 on it at $50 each way, I'm only going to make, even wins, I'm only going to make 100 and something dollars back. And if it loses, I don't even get my money back if it comes second or third. So it's not a great odds to bet on. So I would probably be backing away from in general. Let's have a look here. Caulfield, that was Eternal Warrior. And Doomben. Was that one? Oh, we bet on this race. Guess what won? Think Hard and Fast. I missed out. Look, Throttle Response came fourth. All right. So here's an example where the Mars horse, and this is a classic, isn't it? The Mars horse here. Now, what's annoying for me, right, was I put on a bet return. See here? I bet Throttle Response thinking, oh, well, it should come first, second, or third. Here's a classic example. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because it's fourth, I don't get my money back. So I just lost it. And the one that won was this bugger, Think Hard and Fast. He was the favourite. And here's an instance where you would actually have to say that Think Hard and Fast is the name, the word, it is Mars horse. Because it's a statement saying, think hard and fast. You're being told you better do something right now, which is Mars. You're being pushed into action. So this is where, and I did this just to see how it went. I really thought that maybe that sort of, I'd bit better. But look at this, Armani's Girl and Grey Northern. This is what I mean. You'll get a horse, you look at it and you go, Mars horse is going to win. But when you've got more than one in the race, you're always at risk that you're going to lose. And when you've got more than one in a race, you've also got the risk that if you cover your backside with multiple bets, there won't be enough in the kitty to get your money back. So here, look, $3 for a win. So if I bet on that one and I bet on that one, I would have basically lucky to break even. So if I put $20 on for a win here on this, on as well as on this one, I would have got $60 back and I would have put 46 on. So it's like, here, I'm doing this live to give you an example of what it's like. And yes, you can lose. You can get it wrong, like I've just done here. But I wasn't that far out because we knew that this one had just as much chance as that one. But I chose this one because it was going to give me a better response or better money, thinking, worst case, it was going to come second or third. But no, of course it didn't. So this is the problem. Here you are. As I said, only bet, I'm going to say it again, only bet what you can afford to lose. If you're doing this, this is the technique to work with. You can see that it does work. Strangely enough, I managed to miss good old Black Run. That's not the one I was talking about. Eternal Warrior. I missed this one. This is the one I'm Fireball. I wish I'd caught onto that one earlier because that one I would have definitely bet on. But anyway, that's the way it works. And sometimes we're just gotta deal. Any questions for me while we're looking? Do I have any other? I think I have one more bet on there, motorsports, which I can cash out for $28.50 out of my $30 if I don't want to bet on it now. But when that running, it's got to be soon, doesn't it? 1:30 Caulfield. The reason it's later is because Caulfield's much further south in Australia, so therefore the Mars doesn't come up till a little bit later. So we're talking another half an hour away, and I don't think I'm going to be on here in half an hour. But you guys can check it out. look at Caulfield, Australia, if you want to later, and see who won race 4. And hopefully I got it right with motorsports. Throwing some money in the toilet. We'll see how we go. Anyway, any questions? I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Walter, Veronica, any questions? Because I think I'm going to head off now, and hopefully you've got some insights into how to potentially, for horse racing anyway, use the astrology chart and what's involved, and to, you know. Now, Veronica, you've raised your hand. What would you like to say?
Can you see the message, the notes? I was looking at Hong Kong just
Okay,
to
let me
try.
have a look here. Let's have a look. Galaxy. Okay, I'm just having a look now. Wait on. I haven't read them yet. I'm Veronica's fault. I'm a bit hopeless at looking at the chat box while I'm talking. What if it's 2 degrees before the midheaven? That's still strong. Degrees. If it's on the, I'd say on the 10th house side, i.e. the midheaven is approaching the planet, I would allow anywhere up to about 4 degrees. If it's on the other side, I wouldn't allow any more than about 2 if it's in the 9th house already, because the midheaven will start moving away. And the other thing is, you just don't know. Sometimes a horse race is delayed. If it's delayed 5 minutes, it moves a degree or more. So it can change the whole. Now you've got here Galaxy Patch. Is this the name of the horse, Galaxy Patch?
Yes, according to GTP.
Okay, Galaxy Patch, private wealthy mole. So is this race coming up, or is this what's already
Oh, no,
raced?
it was over. It was last week. I put a chart there last week.
Galaxy is Neptune or Jupiter? A galaxy is Uranus, to be honest. So galaxies, I'm just having a look at Rex Bills. This is the thing. I can't, yeah, well, funnily enough, how's that? Galaxies, according to Rex Bills, is Neptune. And you're going to go, how the hell's that? Because if you think about it, galaxies are so far away you can't see them. It's like being at the deep of the ocean. They're miles away. And if you look at, say, the Milky Way, it looks murky or foggy, and that's the body of stars. So I would say why galaxies are Neptunian. But I look at it and go, Rex, I don't fully agree with you. I think it's also Uranus, because it's also to do with outer space. So into that sort of other frontier, unknown, getting it. But it's also the unknown, if you think about it, that's Neptune. And patch to something. Let's have a look what Rex says about patching. That's usually to fix or put something over. It's a temporary patch. Let's have, I go patriarch. What's he saying here? Patches, as I would have thought. Saturn. So it's to together, to give it a structure, to bring it back. It is temporary. So you're talking around Neptune, Saturn here for Galaxy Patch. If you look at, you break down the name of the horse. However, has Galaxy Patch, is that does it? Although I'm going to share the screen again. I'm going to share my screen so you can all see me again. I'm going to go to Galaxy Patch here and see if it's got any other alternate meaning. No, it's just telling you it's a Hong Kong Rising Star horse. So it's definitely just a name of a horse. And it's been doing okay by the sounds of it. Where is can you guys go back to my, hang on, that's not what I'm after. Nope, don't want to leave the meeting. Here. Can you see that screen now? Which is your communication, Veronica? This is entering Pluto near the midheaven and Galaxy 1. Pluto, the
Oh no,
dark
I
horse
think
galaxy. So this is when it won, did it?
yeah, this was the chart that time. Yes.
The
So
chart
it's
of the
the Pluto
time.
and Dark Horse.
Pardon?
It's Pluto the Dark Horse. That's why.
Okay. Look at the midheaven degree. It's 28. Okay? Look at yeah, Neptune is at 29. Uranus is at 29. The sun is at 1. There's your answer. And the moon was also at 4, which is a little bit not so much the influence. But what you got here is the midheaven, which is in Capricorn, which is Saturn, and Saturn is conjunct in Pisces. So Saturn's dispositing ruler is Neptune. So we've got a strong Saturn-Neptune connection. If Uranus is also to do with galaxies, which I believe it is, and the sun is stars, because our sun is a star, then you're talking about, this is a classic example. Doesn't matter about Pluto. Pluto remember I said on its own doesn't really do much. And it might be midheaven, but this horse, Galaxy Patch, is definitely a Saturn Neptune horse. And why is that the most important here is because Saturn is ruling the midheaven, which is really important to know. And it's conjunct Neptune, and its dispositor is Neptune. So it brings in the rulership of the midheaven coming in here. But more importantly, look, the midheaven during the race was going to hit the exact degree of that and the exact degree of Uranus. There's your winner, and that's why. But it's got nothing to do with Pluto. This
I
is
thought I like means like dark horse, underground, hidden. So you look at the planet expecting the midheaven rather than the planet that is conjuncting, is it?
not always, depending on what the planet conjuncting it is. So Pluto, remember I was in the early in this saying that certain planets in inverted commas are not very strong in producing winners or outcomes, and they are Pluto, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. They and the Sun. So these three over here, and the Moon, and are not strong simply by being conjunct the midheaven. If Saturn or Neptune or Uranus or Jupiter or Mars were conjunct the midheaven, then they on their own can be very strong in influencing the outcome of the winner. If they're also aspected by the moon or brought into the moon, even doubly so. But these planets here can be very powerful on the midheaven if the moon is giving them amplification. Or if these planets are doing something like, say, for example, this Pluto is in Jupiter. But if Jupiter was at 1 degree, the same as that was at 1 degree across there, that would be much stronger. And Jupiter would be giving emphasis to that Pluto. So if you had a horse that was called, say, what's a Jupiter Pluto? So it could be, political. Use horse's name is political success, and political being Pluto and success being Jupiter. If that was Jupiter was around here further, then that would bring in political success as the horse race winner because it's bringing in the Jupiter Pluto. But on its own, Pluto's not that strong. The midheaven ruler is often going to be the strongest influenced planet. That's why in these other races where we've had Jupiter ruling the midheaven, Jupiter at the moment it's been Cancer, so it's like here, and therefore its dispositing ruler is Moon. So when the Moon is hitting stuff, so what we saw in those last races we just did was the Moon. What's its biggest aspect? To Mars. So it's giving emphasis that the Jupiter midheaven ruler, its dispositing ruler, the Moon, is actually giving aspect to Mars. And that's why we've those Mars horses winning those races today. This one, interesting, would not be easy to pick. You'd have to break all the horses down in a race and work it out from there. But I would look at this and go, there's a strong Neptune component here. Why is it strong? Because the Saturn is the ruler of the midheaven. Because Saturn rules the midheaven, but Neptune is the strongest influence. Why is it the strongest? Because it's in it. It doesn't disposit down any further. It's in rulership, and it's in Pisces. So Saturn ruling here is drawn into a conjunction with Neptune in Pisces, and its dispositing ruler in Pisces is Neptune. So that blends those. It gets a strong aspect from Jupiter here. So it's got more emphasis. But more importantly, I think in this case, it was the midheaven ruler being Saturn and Neptune. And then it added emphasis to it because if you wanted to break it down further, galaxies and stars are Sun, Uranus, and they're also an aspect to it. So a little bit like that Project ACE one where I said when all blended together, and you could say, even if we looked at Galaxy Patch, because there we are, there's the patch, Saturn, and the galaxy is Neptune. A galaxy to me is Uranus, but look, they're in exact aspect. And the midheaven. The midheaven's approaching that. And the midheaven to Uranus, midpoint, will be Neptune. So you've got a very strong galaxy patch relationship there. And I think that would have won that race. Does that make sense? Hi, David.
How you doing? I think
Not bad.
myself, we had a mix up.
You had a mix up?
Yeah, lady from and now we're on the wrong site at 8 o'clock.
Oh, were you?
Or 8 o'clock my time. So
where did you go to?
This was today.
Yeah.
I didn't have this email that I just patched in on. I just thought
Oh, okay. Well, I've got a whole heap of stuff done, and you'll be able to watch it back.
okay. All right.
But let's give a rundown on what we did, just for the sake of everybody here as well, and it gives us a bit of a background. What I did today is I jumped in on various horse races here, and we literally went into my account. And I lost a little bit. There's a good reason. We can explain that very simply. And I stand to win some of it back, fingers crossed. And we looked at the races and the an example. Where are we? Not wrong. Is it that one? Hang on. We're going to go to this one. What we were looking for, David, was this. I was showing everyone how we had Mars today on the midheaven, and it's being aspected strongly by the moon. So it's getting triggered by the moon on top of it all. And when you talk about the midheaven ruler being Jupiter, Jupiter is disposited by the moon. So, and it's in mutual reception with, so it's going to have a strong moon relationship there. And the moon is triggering Mars. So Mars is going to be your strongest planet in Sag. And what we did was we looked at a couple of charts and we looked at the races live. And I put some bets on live. So here's an example. There was one Eternal Warrior. This is the one I'm looking for. I'm going to go back to here. I think it was Rose Hill. Fireball. Look at this one. Yeah, that's not Mars. Nothing's Mars. Now, the interesting thing with this one, this was Mars with the sun on midheaven. And Mercury and Mars were together as the midpoint was the sun. So here we have a chart where we look down here. Is there anything else that's Mars related? Our noble boy, nobility and boy, you could say that is the sun and Mars together. This is where it could become a little bit confusing. But I would be going more for a Mars only horse or something that represents Mars. And our meaning owning or possessing, which is Venus. So therefore it sort of rules it out. Came last anyway. You wouldn't want to bet on that one. Any of these here were not related. But then when you got to Fireball, you're talking about a fireball, which is literally, a fireball is the sun. Hello. But it's also Mars. It's just a fireball. It's on fire. And it won. That was an example. We then had another race here where, look, diamonds show last. I was explaining to everybody, oh, look, diamonds, which are Mars, and a show could be the sun. So this could be the sun-Mars working. Let's have a look. So we watched the race, and this one came, look, it's come last. And the one that won was a horse called James, which means nothing to do with it. So you would probably have not bet on that race. That was what we were doing.
Now, all of these are coming on the same chart?
No, they're all different. So this is literally live in Australia at the moment.
Oh,
So Caulfield, the opening address, I haven't looked at that one because that wasn't the one. Eternal Warrior, this was one, so which is sort of more Pluto. We were talking about Pluto being an aspect. It was the midpoint between I think Mars and the Ascendant and the midheaven. So Eternal Warrior ended up coming in as the first one, which was interesting because there was nothing else in this race that was Mars related. And that one won, but look at what it paid. Wish I'd gone on to that one. And let's have a look here at Doomben. There was Silver Wedding, and here's the one I bet on. This is the interesting one. So we looked at this, and I was looking for Mars horses. Interestingly, Steel Blaze came last. And we went through everything. Steel, which can be Mars, but it can also be part of like an Saturn as well. Therefore, and a Blaze can be Mars. So I looked at that and said, well, there's Mars related, but I don't think it's purely Mars. All of these were not purely Mars. Uncommon Valor, which is Valor's Mars, but uncommon means Uranus, so it's not Mars. And then everything through here, I look at throttle response. Our throttle response is literally when you put your foot on the gas, how fast your car's going to go. So it's how quick it responds. So that as being primarily the most Mars-only horse with this one, which won. Think hard and this is what the point was, David. Think hard and fast. I said, look, we could break it down to think hard, fast, which is Saturn, Mercury, Saturn, and Mars. But when someone says think hard and fast, it's usually a statement said to you, think hard and fast. In other words, hey, You better action right now and fast because I'm coming after you. It was also the favourite. So I looked at it and went, this looks like it should win if that's purely acting as Mars. But I'm going to go and have a bet on, and I did it, on throttle response. Because I thought I'll do a safe bet and get a bet return. I.e., if it comes second or third, I get my money back. Guess where it came? Fourth. I don't. So I went with that, but this one. But the reason I didn't back this one was because, look, it was only 3-1. So I thought, I've got a better chance going for this one and hopefully get a second or third worst case scenario and get my money back. But I didn't. That's why I had a chuckle. And in here, we put it in as 3, 6, and 11. So what I did was there's your 3. I thought, let's put the 3 Mars-based horses in and see how we go. Nah, no chance. Because what happens is one of the Mars horses will win, but you don't know which one. So normally in this instance, you would steer away from betting. But I gave it a go anyway. Now, the interesting one we've got coming up is this one. Is it Rose Hill? No, it's not one. It is this one. Look. So let me show you the chart, and then I'm gonna duck off soon, and we go to, was it Caulfield? Okay, Caulfield, and it's going to be at 1:30. 1:30 is 2 o'clock their time. So if I go Caulfield, 2 p.m., have a look at this chart. We have Mars on the midheaven. It is moving away. The midheaven's moving away, which is the only issue. So if it starts late might be a problem, but I think so because it's still within about a minute, or I should say a degree and 20 minutes, so it's not far away. But why is it more important that I don't worry about it is because this moon is about to hit by exact aspect to that Mars. It's coming, it's intensifying it. So that moon is going to give it a lot more strength. And just from the position in the chart, same principle. Remember, Sag with a moon Jupiter in mutual reception is going to cause a strong aspect. There's nothing else degrees. You've got Mercury at 20, which is not a strong planet. This is pretty strongly positioned for another Mars win. And when I look at the race itself, have a look at the horses in it. We went through the names. This is something else that's not Mars. Regeneration, which is more Pluto. Chicago Blues, which is a soul's music. Recuperado, we looked at that and thought, maybe, because it's recuperating. NAFA was some name. Cafeteria is literally that. High Val is to say hello to Valerie, whoever she is. Romantic Miss Motorsports and Angel in Black. I've gone, stuff it. I reckon Motorsports has to win. We're waiting to see if this is the case. I backed it at $4.60. It's now down to $4.20, or was it $4 a second ago? I put $30 on it, and hopefully I'll win my money back and a bit more. So, and we'll see how we go with that. So, but looking at that chart, if Motorsports doesn't win, I might have to start reinventing what I'm teaching.
Well, can you do that? What did you call it? Where you guarantee if it comes in second or third, you get your money back or something?
Yeah, it's a bet return, like this thing. I think I thought I did a bet on this, but it doesn't say it in there. I don't know, maybe it does. Motorsport. See, look, winner plays cash. It hasn't given me that bet return. I thought I picked it as a bet return. But anyway, look, I'll just have to hope for the best. But look, that's what we did today. We went through some live stuff and selecting what would be the better way to do it. And the idea is to line up, and I'll stop sharing now, is to line up the chart itself of the day. Look at what's happening on the day. If you see something like that Moon Mars, look for the races that are starting at that time. There was another one too, I think. Hang on, let me just share once more. David, you'll get it when I say this. Looked at another race which is coming up in Perth. I think it was this one. And looking down here is another Mars race. Wasn't strong enough. Zachariah Bow, a Bow being the boyfriend, could all partners. That's Venus. It's very, very high odds. But the favourite is called Forever Boy. And there was also a Pluto-related, remember the infinitesimal? Remember with Forever Young one, and I got the Pluto wrong. Forever Boy is the favourite, and there's nothing else that's Mars in this race. So chances are the favourite will be strong enough to win this one. But would I bet on it at $2.70? Probably not. So that was, we looked at that and I went, yeah. you know, that sort of thing coming up. I mean, Kembla Grange, let's have a look. Tycoon. Let's have a quick look. We might find something else to muck around with. Kembla Grange. Is there a Mars base in this that I can see straight away? Lol, Pewter Pearl, Rainbow Glow. Nothing there stands out as Mars, so I'm not going to bother even looking at the chart. So I'm looking for Mars-based horses in an early start time. Carry My Money, Zoo and Me, Miss Aurora, same terms. Nope, there's nothing in that one. And this is what I would do. I would go, nah, can't be bothered. Nah, not going to worry about it. I think Mars will be passed by the time that one runs, the evening. Here's interesting to find out what one in New Zealand. We don't know what Guru means. I'm not sure where the Mars would have been at the time. But these are the things we can look at, and might be already passed as star. Well, that'd be great if we had a Sun Pluto conjunction on the midterm. Super Nick. Look, once again, it's the favourite. I'll run this one, the chart for it, because at the end of the day, look at this. My city warrior, city is Jupiter or Saturn. The village fox, not really, but Super Nick. Super is usually Mars, and Nick is a boy's name, right? And it's the favorite. So let's have a look. This is in 55 minutes from now. It's in Wagga. So 55 minutes from now, I'm looking at my one is one. So it's going to be two. In my time, it's going to be 2:18 p.m., which is going to be 2:48 p.m. in Wagga. So this will be way past the Mars. So 2:48 p.m. Let's go to that. And then I'm going to finish up. All right. So let's go to Wagga. 2:48 is what I'm looking for. Rectify that. 2:48 p.m. And today here is the 29th already. And we're going to apply that. Look, see, that's miles away. And the moon is still very strongly squaring it. This will be an interesting one because
Well,
now
what
we have a
about
Saturn.
yeah, the Capricorn?
Yeah, we have Saturn ruling the midheaven. And its ruler is Pisces. Dispositing ruler Neptune. Saturn aspects are trine to that Jupiter. Jupiter's in mutual reception with the moon, was therefore giving power to Mars. And Jupiter rules that Mars. So, and Saturn is also in a Jupiter-ruled sign. If you look at it that way, it really is Saturn-Neptune, but also possibly with Mars. So Super Nick was the horse, right? So look again at the names. Chevrolet Star. So I'm looking for Neptune and Saturn as well as Mars. Let's have a look. Eternity Star. Highway 1. Nope. The Village Fox. Foxes are Mercury. My City Warrior. Interesting. My city is sort of mine. It's me. What's that?
I say that warrior part does have Mars in it, but
yeah, the city is sort of that Jupiter, sort of Saturn. Tennessee Lass, because it's female. Tornado Anwar. Tornadoes are more Uranus.
Yeah.
Classic Azabeel. Someone just got scratched. Look, Tornado Anwar just got scratched from the race. Classic Azabeel. I don't think so. And soliciting, soliciting sort of, you're betrayed him, I suppose, isn't it really? So I look at this and go, what's the strongest, as a rule, he's now down to $2.15. He's probably going to win. I'd say Super. But would I bet on him? Nah. Look, the started. Let's check.
Okay.
Expect to beat it. They're off.
All right, let's see if Super Nick wins. There you go.
Okay.
So what we'll do, I won't, and literally this is live, but I would probably think, looking at this, I would think Super Nick would win. I'd be surprised if he doesn't, simply because of the fact that it's Mars. He's actually winning at the moment. I think he's running out in first. So is that his normal philosophy? No, Eternity Star's coming first at the moment. Super Nick is number 4, and his normal is off pace, so he sits back a bit. What's he look like? He's got green with a white cap, so that must be him just there, coming around the back of the outside. I'd be surprised if he doesn't win.
He's coming up.
He's coming right up around the outside.
Oh, yeah.
But see, at $2, why would you bet for win in case he gets pipped and comes second? It's, to me, unless I had them lose, why would I bother? Here he is, coming up the outside. And he's going to take the lead.
Mm.
Is he, or is he going to get done? No, the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, look, this red one's still kicking with him. Well, look, you know what?
Uh-oh.
That's why you wouldn't do it. Look at that. He's going to get
He's
pipped.
coming.
No, he
Oh,
came second. Eternity Star one. There we go.
wow. And I looked, and that's the Uranus, but
Yeah.
I had a feeling for that one, though.
Well, it's one of the. It was one of the. But interesting. This is why our Nick adds up with the Mars.
Mhm.
Eternity Star, which was this one, was also very strong.
Mhm.
Eternity is sort of, it's like. So there we go. So here, classic example. I wouldn't have bet, but I do have another one coming up, which is when, isn't it that one? Yeah, it's 54 minutes time, so I won't be still here. So you can keep checking to see if Motorsports is going to win for me. It's now down to $4 favourite. Let's hope it kicks something in the butt and me some money back. All right, I reckon I've gone way over, but only because you came in a bit late, David. But
Thank you for hanging
I'm
on.
going to end it up here. I'm going to stop the recording. Let's hope. Hopefully, I still am recording because I did press record.